Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's Friday, October 28th, and I'm Blair Kirchhoff. The Kansas City Current are one day away from playing in the NWSL Championship Game against the Portland Thorns. The game is set for Washington, D.C. and will kick off Saturday at 7 p.m. Central. On today's show, Star columnist Vahe Gregorian and beat writer Daniel Sperry will discuss the game and the season for the Current, only in its second year of existence. And last year, the team won 3 games and finished last. It's been an amazing ride on and off the field for this team, which opened a new training facility and broke ground on a new stadium. We cover that ground and more on today's show. After a break, you'll hear from current coach Matt Potter and midfielder Lo'eau LaBonta, who was named to the All-NWSL team this week. Okay, let's talk Kansas City Current. All right, Daniel and Vahe are with us, and we're going to talk about the Kansas City Current going to Washington, D.C. on Saturday to play in the NWSL final against the Portland Thorns, 7 o'clock Central Time, Audi Field. And Daniel, I'll start with you. When this season opened, coming off of the inaugural season of the second run of women's professional soccer in Kansas City, I don't imagine you saw this moment coming.
Yeah, I think I probably saw maybe playoffs if you look at the roster that they compiled. It doesn't surprise me that they were in the postseason at all. Even with some of the moves that they've made to deal with the injuries that they had, to Sam Mewis and to Lynn Williams. Even to Taylor Leach on the back, not Taylor Leach, Mallory Weber on the back line. In the very first regular season game of the year, she tore her ACL on the turf up in Portland. I mean, there's just, it's been multiple. I think there's 2 torn ACLs, 1 knee injury with Sam Mewis that we aren't quite exactly sure what it is. And then you have Lynn Williams, who completely busted her hamstring and had a bunch of other damage due to poor injury care throughout, her career, which is probably due to some poor advice that she got along the way. So, all these things that are just where it seems like every single one of them could have been a major bombshell to them. They've had players step up and do it. It's been rookies. It's been players that were unwanted by other teams, like CZ Kaiser. I don't know how Louisville saw CC Kaiser as indispensable to them, but as we've seen in Kansas City, she's pretty darn indispensable for her team. So did I see playoffs? Yes. Did I see making a run to the championship in a league like this where there's 2 rounds of playoffs before you're in the championship? Anything is certainly possible. Would I have considered them a true NWSL Championship contender at the beginning of the year? Probably not. And honestly, I think we were all, at least you and I, Blair, were at the game in May, at the end of May, before they turned it around and really started going. Up until that point, I don't even think I would have seen them as the true contender, maybe even a playoff team, until they started putting all those wins and the unbeaten streak together. So it's a team that's come on late. It's a team that's very different from the one that lost 3-0 at Portland at the beginning of the year. It's a team that's on fire and believes that every single time they step on the field right now, they're going to win. And at some point, that belief really does carry you and transcend any, quote, on paper talent gap that might exist in some of these matchups that they've had against OL Reign and what you're going to have against Portland too.
And I would add that it, by all accounts, seems to be a fun team. Now, anybody will tell you that in any sport that winning is fun, but these guys have had fun all along. And I saw it when you both were out at the training facility earlier this week, that you can't help but smile when you talk to Lo'eau LaBonta and some of the other players out there, Vahe. And I know you try to get into that a little bit with her and others. There is, again, look, when you win, we've been in winning clubhouses and locker rooms, and they're having fun. But this team, as Lo'eau is saying, she'll go down and sit at anybody's table and have and laugh and smile with people. And there is an air about this team, isn't there?
There is, and I can spell the word, but I still can't pronounce joie de vivre.
Joie de vivre?
Yeah, I think I can spell it without looking, just like I learned to do with Krzyzewski, but that's another story. It's unmistakable, and there is a chicken and egg question to be asked about this, with all teams, right? Because we've seen teams with great chemistry not be very good, and teams with poor chemistry win. You see that happen, but I would submit that there is a fairly reasonable relationship between the two. When players like each other, when players respect ownership, when players feel respected, and as this team must, in ways that few teams ever in the sport could ever feel, with the commitment ownership has made to them, that there's a translatable, almost tangible aspect to how it shows up on the field. And Lo'eau did a nice job. I don't remember her exact words, but I was trying to ask her a little bit about that dynamic and how feeling that way about each other affects the team. And she said words basically to that effect. I wish I could capture her eloquence off the top of my head, but I just thought it was interesting, and it's part of what makes them so compelling to watch. I mean, Daniel can speak to this better than anyone, but they're pretty enthralling to watch, and you have to love just the arc of the story when you think about that too. I mean, we certainly are all cognizant of what they now mean on the Kansas City landscape, but the idea that they were last place last year and made really significant moves, and then had a couple of the most major moves almost be for naught, at least for this season, right away because of injuries, and then little by little, they accelerate into this. It's just what you want in sports.
And we're going to hear from Lo'eau after we take a break. So, and Coach Matt Potter as well, who were out at the training facility meeting the media earlier this week. Let me just pause a little public service announcement. I'll apologize in advance. The interviews were conducted outside. We need to get as much investment as the Current has made in their facility, and of course the groundbreaking of their new stadium. We need to get them an interview tent, or at least an indoor facility to conduct interviews, because you will hear the wind whipping.
I've not been, Daniel, I don't know if this is true, but I've not been inside the sanctum yet. Mm-hmm. And I thought maybe that would work out that way. On the other hand, Blair, it would have kept Daniel from his rather enjoyable and colorful lead the other day about writing about it starting in the cold and ending in the cold.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's exactly right too, isn't it, Daniel?
Yeah, and it's been fun too, because I think even some of the folks from the TV station were out there, and it was just maybe 2 or 3 of us that were going out before the training facility was finished, and they were out at Swope, driving to Swope in the driving April rain and the barely 45-degree temperatures, and we're out there wet and our hands are numb because we're just trying to hold our phone out there to talk to Coach Potter at the beginning of the year. It's one of those things where, like, as the seasons change and the way soccer falls in the American calendar, if you get to train in the cold 2 different times in the year, then you've had a long season and you're doing pretty well. So it was a fun little idea to throw in there, but I just that it shows how good that they've been this year to get all this way, because they say they don't make the playoffs, or they lose a couple of weeks ago. That's not happening. So yeah.
Hey, Blair, one other just quick interjection, and maybe we get to this, but just while the thought hits me, what I find also inspiring and pretty cool about this, I mean, you do want to see the return on investment when they've invested the way they have, right? But I think it would have been reasonable to think that that's something that would happen over time instead of so quickly. And so I think that's it's just another interesting part of the story, because all the other things they've been doing, frankly, it didn't make winning secondary, but it put winning in sort of a different place because of the organizational trajectory with the stadium and the training facility. And we think very much in terms of what it portends about the future for the club and for Kansas City. But it's just, obviously puts it in a whole nother gear to have this happen this quickly. Now, I do wonder if they'll run into a problem about having to win every year now, like now that they've set this tone.
Yeah, they better. No, of course. But I can't help but think that the team, the players, were lifted by the investment in them this year. You know that they had an opportunity, and this may only happen this year in their lives, where they got to go to was it 11? I forgot what the price tag was on the training facilities. It's 17 million, 11. I can't remember exactly what it was, but a beautiful new facility right in Riverside, and then take part in the groundbreaking ceremony of the $117 million stadium in the Berkeley Riverfront Park. That has to be a spirit lifting occasion that. I don't know if you're wearing that uniform, it's got to bring out the best in you, I would think.
Well, remember, all three of us were there, I think, that day, and I think Sam McDowell also. It was the training facility day, and some of the ways the women described the meaning of this were just startling to me in a way, and probably shouldn't be, but they're talking about how they've been in sheds or they've been in men's locker rooms. They've certainly never had, the team crest or seal on their own facility.
Weightlifting equipment, yeah.
And I think it was Kristen Edmonds who said something that we all used in different forms about the only thing the facility was missing was a time machine so she could go back 5 years to extend her career. And boy, is that telling. And one last thing from this little rant, the fact that the commissioner has been in for all these events, the fact that this is happening in the 50th year of Title IX, all that coalesces in a pretty powerful way.
Totally
I agree. And I think too, if you look at some of the I don't know how much you guys read the Sally Yates report when that came out a few weeks ago, and saw the E60 documentary that kind of detailed a lot of the stuff that Portland, as a team, former players for Portland, and within that organization, I remember talking with Becky Sauerbrunn prior to the U.S. Women's National Team game against England, Wembley, a couple of weeks ago, the same week that came out, and there's genuine apprehension to the idea of even playing for that team. I think there's so much. We talk about all the positive investment. You talk about Jessica Berman coming here for all of this stuff. I mean, this is a model of what they want for ownership in the league, and I think players are realizing it as well. Because I think, but I'm pretty sure Lynn Williams requested the trade out of North Carolina to come here, and I wouldn't be surprised if Sam did as well. And Sam, that was where Paul Riley was coaching before everything went down. I mean, this has been a really dark place in this sport for so long that a team like Kansas City that's coming in doing things the right way and investing like that, like you said, players have to respond. Because I think Kristen Hamilton told me one thing earlier this year when she was on her main run of goal scoring form between the Challenge Cup and the regular season. She said, I'm so used to being screamed and yelled at as a player, and to hear everything be so positive, constructive criticism, not that there's an absence of criticism, but everything is done in a way to hey, this was a mistake. This is where we think you can be better here. And as constructive criticism and positive reinforcement for positive actions on the field. And it's just an entirely different mindset that a lot of these players are experiencing for the first time. And it's taking them to heights that I don't think anybody really saw coming. But it goes to show, like Vahe said, just everything that's been poured in and how important this is to the league. It shows it's having a very obvious impact on the players as they, conduct themselves on and off the field. And it sure has to have an effect on the psyche, because I've seen and heard about, the negative psyche that all the other bad things have had on players that are dealing with that and have been in clubs that have been kind of highlighted by that. So I think it's it just goes to show that NWSL really looks and sees what Kansas City is doing and hopes that is the model moving forward, and players are responding alike too.
Hey Blair, I hope you don't mind if I just interject a question to Daniel. Daniel, it's clear developed relationship with so many people in and around the team, and with Matt Potter. And you've written about him in a number of ways, but I wonder if you could describe what the significance of his role has been in this, because I think it must be significant, but I think you can quantify it better than I could.
Yeah, I mean, I think of what Potter's done with this team is he's really tailored his system, and he told us this too when he first came on. He's tailored the way he wants to play based on what he has available versus here's a system. I have a bunch of triangular pegs, and if you're a square peg, you're not going to fit. He's going to find a way to make all of those things work together, and make it make it a fluid thing that sometimes formationally is a little bit odd. Not a lot of teams in soccer run a 3-1-4-2. It's a very different formation. A lot of teams in the NWSL do run three at the back, but how he sets up the midfield, how he does things is all based on the strong suits of his players. And he's created a plan that is very fluid and effective in emphasizing the strong suits of his players. And I think that kind of goes back to this positive reinforcement thing where they're always looking to put players in the best position possible to succeed. So when CC Kaiser comes over here from Louisville and says, they're playing me deeper in the midfield as a number 10, I kind of like to be, in a little bit more further forward, and in a way kind of a striker that gets to roam free and do whatever she needs to find the space that she wants on the field. All of a sudden he puts her in that position, and she's blown away. She has more goals in the 2-3 months that she's been with Kansas City than she has in her entire career, because she was put in the position that fit her strong suits. And I think of even when Elise Bennett came onto the field, like she didn't go and directly do what CC Kaiser was doing after in that first half against the Reign on Sunday. She went out and did what Elise Bennett is really good at doing, which is drawing attention, being physical, and threatening people in behind with her speed and physicality. And all of a sudden, that was drawing defenders. You've watched Kristen Hamilton. There's a great behind the back view of Kristen Hamilton's goal there, where Bennett wins the ball in the air, and it falls to Hamilton because no one's picking her up because everyone's focused on trying to shut down Elise's speed and power. And so then as she runs, she drags defenders out of the way, opens up this giant lane for Kristen Hamilton to rip her shot into, and she scores. And it's just some of those things where every single player is put in a spot with roles and responsibilities that fit their strong suits. And it's not okay, I need my right back or my central defender or my defensive midfielder to do this, so I need you to learn how to do that. It is, you fit best as a lone defensive midfielder, Desiree Scott. So we're not going to put you in a position where you're a double pivot and you have to be a little bit more aggressive in certain areas that maybe don't fit your strong suit. And so it's just decisions like that he's kind of a madman in how he tinkers with his tactics, and the overall idea of who they want to be is there. But as a coach and their coaching staff for them, they're so detail oriented on each player that they can come up with a plan like that the players can execute because everyone's put in a position to succeed. And it's a little different. Peter Vermees has his formation, his system, and now he wants to do things at Sporting KC, and Potter changes his based on who his personnel is. So I think this team would have looked entirely different if Sam Mewis and Lynn Williams were still playing with them today. So I had very different formations, maybe even different personnel on the field. So it just shows to show how well he's tinkered with everything to make everything work the way it did. And it's kind of a shame that he was third in the Coach of the Year voting, because I think out of anyone that was on that list, he did the most with what he had, and took a team from, I just know it's a regular season award, but he took them from worst in the league to 4 points out of first place at the end of the season. So Potter gets a lot of credit. He'll do everything he can to deflect it to everybody else because that's who he is. But there's a lot that he's done as a coach that has really allowed this team to succeed in the way that it has.
Yeah, if that's not Coach of the Year stuff, I don't know what is. From last to doorstep of first. Okay, the teams played twice in the regular season. Portland defeated the Current 3-0 back in April, and they played again in September with a 1-1 draw. I don't know who scored first in the 1-1 game. Who was? Do you know, Daniel?
Portland scored first in the 87th minute, and the Current tied it up very, very late in the last minute of stoppage time with a rocket free kick from Haley Mace.
Gotcha. Okay, so there is that going into Saturday. All right, we are going to take a break, and when we come back, you're going to hear from current coach Matt Potter and from Lo'eau LaBonta, but this is where we bid farewell to Daniel Sperry and Vahe Gregorian. Great conversation, guys. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Blair.
Hey, this is Blair. There are several ways to access the Star Sports section. Let me tell you about a couple of them. There's Sports Pass. For $12.99 a month, you get unlimited digital access to all of the Star Sports content, including beat writing, columns, features, pretty much everything we write. The deal renews monthly until you tell us to cancel. For $159.99 a year, you get everything the Star has to offer digitally, including sports and the e-edition. Go to kansascity.com and drop down to the bottom of the page where it says Start a Subscription for more information. Your support has never been more important. As always, thanks for reading and listening. Now let's hear from Kansas City Current midfielder Lo'eau LaBonta as she spoke with Vahe, and then from coach Matt Potter.
And I just wonder what that means to you when you say it's about time. I don't know if you can elaborate on that. But
yeah, for me, it's about time refers to just, putting women's sports on the map and just giving them the platform that they deserve. There's great athletes all around the world, great female athletes, and just to give them the spotlight, finally, it's just, it's about time. That's what I was hinting at.
I figured that's what you meant. And look, nothing against FC KC, right? But that was a little different climate. Probably a different climate in women's sports, but also just playing your sport. The arc of that, is that something that's that you appreciate how that's changed specifically?
Yeah, in terms of, you mean like the support from the city?
Where you played, or the facilities?
For FC KC, it was very similar to our first year here for KC Woso, what we were called last year. We trained at the same, or where we trained, we had our games there for FC KC, and the thing is, I think it's coming full circle for this team because FC KC, won 2 championships. Hopefully now that we can win this one, we just have even more support in putting us on the map again.
And when you try to explain to people how you went from what the team was last year to this year, what's the most succinct way to say it? You said you can't say you're shocked. There's a reason for that.
Yeah, I would say the difference mainly from last year too is just the investment in the players. I think, we got a facility now. We're not out of trailers. It's just very professional now. So all the investment, and look what happened. We're able to actually produce a great product in the game. So I think it just comes for investing in your players and, having them be able to play in great facilities shows that it could be rewarding.
And that's an interesting part of this whole thing, too. There's a certain synergy to the investment, but nice to have the return on investment right now, isn't it? Does that all sort of come together in an emotional way for you
100%. I
guys?
think every single player on this team is absolutely grateful to the Longs and Brittany Mahomes, and we just know they really care about us and they want us to, succeed at the end of the day. So they've invested in us, and our return to them is giving them the end product at the end of the weekend. And we always talk about playing for something bigger on this team, and we always mention the city, and we always mention ownership, and then people's individual, whatever it is that drives them at the end of the day.
What's the best testimony to the support of the sense of support of the city? Where do you see that, whether it's Blue Crew or?
Yeah, for sure the Blue Crew. They were with us when we were our FC KC days. So when they came back, we knew they were going to be the first ones in the stadium when we came back here. And I think the city lights up. When they light up the all the lights downtown, putting the teal on. Like, there's people around wearing KC gear. There's people, my husband's on sporting, but people come up and recognize me as well. So the full city, I think, just shows, like, when you invest in your players and they do well and you market them really well, the team is going to, or the city is going to buy in and support the team.
How have the last 48 hours been?
Recovery. all about recovery right now, and then obviously we start the journey towards Saturday today. So.
When do you think it'll kind of feel real that Saturday you guys are playing for the championship?
Kickoff maybe. No, I think the group's done a really good job of. We keep saying it all the time: processes, behavior, identity, and we just keep living into the possibility of who we can be and what we want to be. And I'm not quite sure when it'll hit home about the game itself, because we've done a really good job of just trying to put games for what they are, and that's a game and an opportunity for us to express ourselves for the people we care about, whether that be friends, family, ownership, people internally, or whether the greater Kansas City community. So that's why we're doing this.
Did you expect to be here this quick in your guys'
from
journey?
over there to here? Well, I think, for me, it's about creating the environments. In terms of the group, they take all the credit because they're the ones who have had to buy into what we've tried to implement. And the journey we've been on, we've had our ups and downs, but we find ourselves here because of the work we've done, and that credit goes to the players. They're the ones that have been doing it every day, and we're proud of them to get to this point, and hopefully there's one more to come.
This is a bit related, but I wonder what the most succinct way to explain how you could go from what the environment was, or where you guys were last year, to where you are now.
Well, I can't speak to what was before me, but ultimately I think we've had these little landmarks along the way that have allowed us to grow as a group. We spent a month together in pre-season where there was nothing but each other to fall back on and grow and figure out things that were important to us in terms of an identity on and off of the field. And then obviously moving into the training center here has been another big moment where everybody just wants to be here. So to spend that time together, that helps you build this sense of relationships that are meaningful. And there's a lot of meaningful relationships within the group, and upstairs, downstairs, between front office and ourselves, the technical group downstairs. So yeah, there's just a lot of good positive things going on that probably helped along the way.
This is related to that, but I think about all the sort of points of energizing things that are happening here. How much does that all go together in some way? I mean, you just sort of said it to some degree, but does it feel like that when you see the commitment that's been coming into what you can give back to it?
Well, it's hard not to be energized by the project. Angie, Chris, his ownership, and Brittany, they've got this idea in their head about what they want this to look like. We believe in the project. I'm just grateful that I get an opportunity to be a part of it. And as we've looked every day, it's just trying to, again, live into the possibility of what it can become. We obviously, these little indicators by you all being here means that we're moving in the right direction, and that's what we want to continue to do. Continue to grow, continue to build. But the group that's here are doing all the hard work. I'm just here to facilitate and enjoy it along the way, like you guys.
Coach, today the league announced that this game will be showed the first time ever on a primetime slot on a major network in the evening. It seems like all these firsts are happening with you and your team. I know that can't be getting old.
Well, I think it's long overdue for the players in this league that way back when started out. It's long overdue for the sport. There's been much to celebrate in women's soccer in this country, across the world, for a long, long time. And the fact that it's now getting the stage that it deserves, I couldn't be happier personally to be a part of it, but I couldn't be happier for all the players that have come before and for those that are playing now.
Is it satisfying to be part of the history that maybe is late in coming, but it's coming? You guys have been the innovators and taken the first steps. Is that satisfying to help push this along?
Well, to be part of it is very humbling. I feel very fortunate to be in the position I'm in, and I feel a sense of responsibility to be entrusted with this part of the journey. I think our best days are still to come, though.
That'll do it for today and this week on SportsBeat KC. Thanks to our production crew of Monty Davis, George Howard, Randy Mason, and Jeff Rosen. Tip of the cap to Vahe Gregorian and Daniel Sperry for sharing their insights. The morning sports edition is the best sports page in America. Yep, I said it because it's true. It carries all of the Star's stories, plus news, features, and columns from around the country and around the world. Check it out at liveedition.kansascity.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back on SportsBeat KC next week to talk everything sports in Kansas City.